is the Unlearning Podcast, a show where we will begin to disrupt, dissolve, deprogram, and dismantle what we think limits us in order to reinvent, rebirth, and revolutionize the world in our most authentic selves. My name is Christina, and I'm your host. Welcome everyone to the Unlearning Podcast. Today our topic is life lessons, finding redemption and liberation, with our special guest, Christopher Willars. So the reason I named it this way is one of the interviews I heard you have a nickname that you go by.
I definitely like to play on the words. Definitely. That's all.
I try to elevate everybody. I'm gonna get mine in the end. I'm just,
Most definitely.
Chris Willars is a community-minded leader, advocate, and activist based out of Tucker, Georgia. He's the main creator and visionary of the TV 100 channel found on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Chris is not a man defined only by his past. Rather, he embraces his past to lead himself and others through a path of empowerment, empathy, and purpose. Chris has diligently worked as an advocate for prison reform, supporting the voices of those who are incarcerated. He also works to advocate for mental health and education within communities. In December 2021, Chris founded the Lasting Layers of Beauty Institute in Tucker, Georgia. As the executive director, he and his team of staff are providing opportunities and pathways that empower students to become the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs who are positively impacting their families and communities. Please welcome Chris Willars again to the show. So thank you.
That was a mean intro. Thank you so much.
That was you.
I never heard. That was weird. Yeah, I'm usually on the other side. I'm usually doing. Yeah, so that was unique.
Yeah, I like to stalk, if you will, the guests because I was just former educator. I like to know who I'm talking to because. Right. One thing I think you probably have the same sentiment is I don't treat people common. I don't like people when people treat me common. And I'm definitely, if you are taking the time to sit here with somebody you don't know, I'm not going to treat you common.
Right.
That's the least I could do. So yeah. That's you. So just tell us a little bit more about who you are. I'll let you open it up and we'll just keep talking.
I don't even know. I guess in short, I'm a guy, to sum it up, that grew up in Chicago, Illinois, to a great mother and father, that went through some tough times. Ended up myself, when they split part ways, wandering into the streets. Mama was working 2 jobs, but she always told me what to do. You know what I'm saying? She told me what was right. But young men, we get to exploring. I ended up still getting into a little trouble back then, as we do as young men. I ended up getting into the United States Air Force at 17, enlisting during 9/11, where I would be a special and heavy equipment tech. So I'm proud of that. That was an accomplishment. But still, I was that angry young kid. You know what I'm saying? That was from the hood, from Chicago, eventually a broken home. And a lot of times that reflected. And I ended up messing up my career in the military. And then eventually I would end up, because of course of maybe 60 seconds worth of decisions and choosing to be a follower, I ended up being sentenced to prison for actually 144 years. So I got sentenced to 144 years. They did eventually suspend everything but 19. I ended up doing 16 years and 11 months to the day. Even while I was incarcerated, my experience was different. When I first got incarcerated, I was that angry kid that could fight really good, had built a reputation. I was locked up in Virginia, which was a completely different state. The guys started to rally around me, and the wardens and certain people saw that I had influence, but at the time I was using it the wrong way. Later on, a guy by the name of Jefferson L.L.C, which is why I'm big on prison advocacy to this day. He came to me one day and he said, "Man, do you know who you are?" And I didn't understand why this dude would randomly come and ask me that. But today I call him brother. When he asked me that question, it's kind of weird, right? It's almost like the stereotypical prison movie where the young guy moves into the cell with the slightly older guy and you're playing chess and reading books, but that's really what it was.
Wow.
Started, really finding out who I was, my history, my value, knowledge of self, Ethiopia, Kemet, science, all these things that I wasn't really exposed to because I was stuck in this basic educational system that a lot of times we get stuck in. So then my prison bid changed because the certain institutions would use my influence. The wardens knew that, okay, he can get a lot of guys to go to these programs and such and such. And they ended up giving me and another guy by the name of Freddie Williams these titles called senior elders. We were the only two in the States. And basically we were liaisons between us as fellow prisoners and the staff. And we could facilitate programs. We could request for visitors to come in. We could do everything just like staff. We just couldn't go home. So our journey was different. I got into the law library. It's documented right now that I helped, or at least aid and assist, at least 22 incarcerated individuals get home to their freedom. And it was a wild story. I ended up getting married to my wife. We met on a business call while I was running a nonprofit with my buddy Freddie Williams, the Nehemiah Empowerment Project, while I was incarcerated. And then I don't know. I can't.
Wait. You started a nonprofit while you were incarcerated? Because I like the way that you're painting all of what you did. I want to go back.
It's a lot, because I don't know what you want to touch on. But
no. I like the flow of our conversation. So however we want to, and I appreciate that. So I'm just because I've never been incarcerated. And like I told you before, like I have my brother, my older brother, my younger brother who was incarcerated. He doesn't disclose what that experience is like. So besides television and besides court TV, we never hear the real, the voice of what is happening. And however you feel comfortable to go with that, because
that's what I do.
We either think, oh, you have no rights to do anything, or we've been told things like, it's better in there than it is out here.
No, it's so when I got locked up, I went from the jail. I got sent to a level 4, maximum security, which was basically you were locked down 18 hours out the day. It was gang infested. I lost a buddy of mine 2 days before he was supposed to go home over a 5-inch television set. I could there was moments like that, right?
Right.
But then you work your way down, and like I said, I'm on a level 2 and I'm facilitating programs, and then I work my way all the way down to the minimum, which is like a level 1, where I can just walk out the gate, go to work, come back. So I've had the whole experience. I think a lot of times, obviously in certain shows, it's funny, me and my wife I don't know why. I watch some of these shows sometimes, but I think it's more if I want to see if they're depicting it right, if they're getting it right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're not.
Okay.
Is it a violent place? Is it ugly? Is it? Yeah. But then you get to a lot of these guys, they were on lower levels. And it's not like that. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take me. I'm fascinated by your story just because like leadership was there with you all along. It was there all along. And I was talking to someone else where, the signs are kind of there, but you may not be ready to hear them.
Yeah.
So, or see it because you don't see it in yourself yet.
Yeah.
So you said at 17, you went to the military.
Mm-hmm.
Were you hoping that the military was going to do something? Like I know people who say like the military for them was an escape to get out of where they were, the life situation.
I got kicked out of high school and I got sent to this, it's like a boot camp program called Lincoln's Challenge. And it was in Rancho, Illinois. And you complete it, you get your GED, they give you a stipend, they try to get you job placement. And at the end, they had a job fair. and military came in. And originally I was going to go to the Marines, and then the Air Force guy was like, hey, you're smart. Come over here. You don't have to get shot at, essentially.
Right.
But I can't tell you that there was any thought to it other than I was a 17-year-old kid that knew I had messed up. I was in this situation. I wanted to make my mother proud. Yeah. And in hindsight, because I was trying to make her proud, I was never happy in the military. And that's why I wasn't successful. You know? Yeah. That's just being honest. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Take us to, because as I heard your story in other interviews, like I started getting annoyed because the whole system itself, I just don't see how anybody wins within it. No. And so for someone to tell another human being, you've got 144 years.
Yeah.
Pissed me off, I'm be honest, because it was almost like overkill. Now it's like this psychological playing with me. That's how I took it.
I never touched. So, and I want to speak in case anyone, I got 144 years for being a driver in a robbery. And as a grown man now, I understand nobody was harmed physically, but I understand mentally and emotionally individuals were harmed. I understand that. But I'll take it a step further. My co-defendants had BB guns. See, a lot of guys, they won't get up here and say, because they still, even in the, they don't want to admit that they got 17, but this is, because in our minds, young kids, we're thinking, well, with the exception of one of my relatives who was older, we're thinking, it's not a real gun. We're not knowing the extent, of what's going on. And then for me, I didn't want to be there, but it was an older family. I was the youngest dude. I was the only one with a car. And it was peer pressure, but at the same time, I hold myself accountable because I made a decision. I understand what I did. But to give a kid 144 years that was just serving the country, had never been in trouble before, like as far as like any felonies, anything like that, and was the driver in a vehicle where nobody got physically harmed, I feel like they definitely could have did something different, but that's what I've been screaming. I think that a lot of the young kids, and not to drift necessarily over there, but a lot of us, if in communities we became more proactive with mental health, I think we drastically see a decrease in incarceration, especially amongst African American and Hispanic males, and that's why I fight for mental health too. It's a lot going on, though.
So to also, well, then we'll come back to that part. Then you talked about in your interviews that the first thing you had to do was like know the law. Because most of us don't. We don't know how the law works. So a lot of us go into court, we're terrified. You're naive about it. It's going to work itself out.
No idea.
So how did you become more conscious and aware? Like I got to know this in order to get myself out.
We didn't have money. I didn't have money when it came to, when it was a lawyer, I had a public defender and no plea. They didn't offer me a plea deal because I refused to testify. And I testified, I didn't have to do a day. But I had refused to testify, so they offered me no plea. I'm with a public defender, and all I could do was just go stand in front of this white man. That's all I could do. And depending on how he felt, maybe I could have reminded him of something, or maybe, I don't know, he got into an argument with his I don't know, somebody, maybe he's in a good mood. But it literally, for anybody who doesn't know, when you walk into a courtroom, you got basically, I would say, a scale, a number of years that guidelines that they can sentence you within based on the crime. So if robbery is 5 to life, okay? In my case, let's break down some more numbers in case anybody wants to think about doing anything crazy in 2023. We robbed one place, but because there were 6 people in it, each one of us got 6 robbery charges. I didn't touch it. Watch this now. I didn't touch a gun, but because my co-defendants had one in their hand, a BB gun, I still got 6 gun charges along with them. And because I drove, and we drove, which I could agree to this part, we each got 6 conspiracies. So that was 18 felonies. Each robbery, 5 to life. Each gun charge, even though it wasn't real, the first one 3, mandatory, each one 5 after, and each conspiracy was 10 years. So, so why I tell everybody to know the law, and I can smile about it now. I can smile about it now because my life is good. I can't complain, and I'm a believer in God's plan. But I'm a young kid that was uneducated. A lot of us, it's nobody's fault, but our parents, they don't know certain things, right? And you find yourself in this situation and you're looking at this white guy, and then you're looking over here at another white guy. And I'm not saying that's what it's about, but when you get into the judicial system, when you start understanding what's going on with sentencing and how certain prisoners get swapped out and etc., you get into it. I understood what happened that day. My lawyer came in and he said, I can get you 38 years, no less. I looked at him, I said, I'm not doing 38 years. He said, well, what do you want me to tell the judge? As a 19-year-old kid, I told my public defender, go tell the judge, I just want to be home before I'm 40. That was in a matter of minutes, I had to decide, not even minutes, seconds, it seemed, decide what would be a fair amount of my life to give away to please them, but still avoid from doing the number they really want me to do as a 19-year-old kid. But that I'll never be in a situation like that again. And that's why. And the only reason I'm not taking the bar is because that's just not my path. But I tell everybody, if you're in the streets, if you're not in the streets, know the laws. You know, if you, even if it's not criminal law, understand what's going on with the vote. Like, are you understand what's going on with legislation? Are you going into these meetings? Are you understanding what's going on around you? Because there's people that are dictating what's going on, and if you don't know, you can fall victim. You know, and it is what it is. We're in a crooked system, but you can fight it.
And so, how have you helped other folks who are incarcerated? Do you help? Are you helping specifically males? Or are you just helping anybody, male and female, or whoever? Do they seek you out, or how does it work?
I started when I first got on the internet on Facebook, coming home from prison. I knew I wanted to do something of value. I knew I wanted to speak about my incarceration and document it. But I also knew my brother that asked me, do you know who you are, was still fighting 50 years. And I knew his story, the truth behind it. So we began to talk about his story, and we were able to get over 183,000 signatures on an online petition through change.org. That's on the governor's desk right now, currently as we speak. And I mean, as people saw that, family members reached out. And you know, we started doing interviews, and then we realized that a lot of the family members didn't know what was going on. Like, they didn't know how to help. They didn't know where to start. They were overwhelmed. They didn't even know how to make phone, where to make phone. Like, and then I just got to keep going back to this. And this isn't a knock, you know what I'm saying? It's just unfortunate. It's an unfortunate truth. There's a lot of black boys getting locked up, and they just got their black mamas, and they don't know what's going on, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those are the conversations I'm getting those calls from the mother, and they don't know because their husband or their father was locked up, and that's all they know. And now their son's locked up, and they feel they're desperate. And you try to help everybody, you can't. So you got to be honest. You got to be, straight up with them. But for me, it's more about just trying to show people or connect the dots. Show them where the resources are. If we can make calls. Getting the family members up there so they can be heard, showing them how to promote, their loved one's story, because it's all about just getting them out there. But it started while I was incarcerated. It just transferred out here because I was in the law library fighting for guys. Guys were paying me. I was they called him jailhouse lawyer, that type, that's how I used to eat, so.
Wow.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah.
That is amazing. how you, I just want to go back to mental health. You said if there was a lot more support for mental health, and I'm gonna add education in that too, because as the educator, you know what we say from one side and lens, but there's all these other parts that play in this institution. So, can you go back to that and just talk a little bit more about like why that mental health is important, especially for Black males?
Oh man, suicide rate, hands down, is all-time high amongst Black males. I'm super transparent guy. I had to send up, I call it a solar flare to the heavens earlier this year. I tell it, sometimes those that you think got it all, man, they hurting on the inside because they got the most weight on their shoulders.
Yeah.
In 2017, my youngest brother took his own life. So that was kind of a wake-up call. And then coming home from prison after 17 years, being a former vet, etc., coming home straight into a pandemic, man, it was a lot. Me and my wife, we ended up suffering some tragedies, some miscarriages, stuff like that. And it just I started hitting walls. But we are the type of people we could be hitting walls and we're still adding to our plate. Hey, what are we going to do next? Let's open a school. Let's do that. And I tell everybody, man, take care of yourself, right? Yeah. Self-care. Because without you, there's nothing. There's no amount of money you can have. Because it'll be gone in a heartbeat. But the reason I'm big on, aside from that, from the personal experience, from the history of my brother, I remember when I started going to therapy, and then I eventually asked for a psych eval because addiction runs in my family too, and I'm grateful I never, bit that bug. But I remember the psych, she was like, "Hey, you're reading for type 1 bipolar," and as she's reading, breaking it down, I'm like, that makes sense. And one of the most prolific moments, and at first it hurt me, but I think it was an awakening moment, and I'm glad she said that truth. She said, "Hey, if it would have been diagnosed when you were younger," she said, "because bipolar is caused by childhood trauma." And she's like, "I'm not saying how it would have went," but she said, "More than likely, you wouldn't have ended up in prison. You wouldn't have ended up." She said, "And I just wanted you to know that." Wow. And I think that's the truth. A lot of our kids, a lot of our youth, man, a lot of our Black children, Hispanic children, children, period, man, certain environments, they're growing up and they're seeing things they shouldn't. And then not only that, in person, the internet, you see anything, right? Yeah. And children aren't children anymore. They're seeing everything they shouldn't see. And it wasn't like that before. So I think if we took more care and we were more proactive, if we did the work before instead of trying to do it after, man. But I don't know how many people actually want to do the work before. So
I think you would have a lot of teachers and support specialists behind you on that one, because even here, a lot of those services were cut within the district. Yeah. And so we're talking about, at the time it was like teacher strike, and these things like these school support, like having extra psychiatrists, having mental health experts come into the building, having a full-time nurse. I didn't even know schools didn't have full-time nurses. Just to have someone there to help identify some of these things. Now teachers are having, other people are taking those loads. It would be a lot up here. I know that much. If you came out to Denver, it would be a lot of people behind you trying to get it moving. I mean, they were able to hire more, but it's still not enough when our district services over 90,000 kids. Every school.
I think like you hit it on the head when you spoke on education and mental health. And I want to speak to the education aspect. The governor just signed off here. Starting in 2024, they're finally putting in financial education or something like that into their curriculum. That's an example of something that can drastically change the pathway for somebody younger, because they don't know the information, they don't know the resources, and we got to look at education a little differently, right? You know what I'm saying? What happened to the creative aspects? What happened to allowing from what I've researched, we used to watch them, and if they gravitated towards carpentry or woodwork, then that's what they would be skilled in because they were passionate about that, and the impact was great. They weren't being isolated and bottled. And man, I can go.
No, I mean, I know you're tired. I see it in your eyes, like so. But I do want you to come back to talk about that because, as being an educator for over 21 years, it took COVID for me to see. Oh, this some bullshit. Pardon my. I don't normally cuss about my, but this some because it was about indoctrination. It was never about educating. And we got to look at the difference. Yeah. Because education teaches you how to think for yourself. Doesn't tell you necessarily what you need to be. And as you know, my background in curriculum, the first thing we learn about when we talk about curriculum is it's based on your values. Mm-hmm. And so if the courses and the learning pathways and access and opportunity we're designing says what we value, and you have children, Black and brown students, you have students of other, genders, all of the identity saying, I'd like to see myself in what I'm learning. I'd like to experience it the way my brain works. And you still ignore that? You don't value them.
What is it called real quick? Because we were trying to figure, we forgot what it was called, where they don't want to teach history. They don't want to teach history.
CRT, CRE, culturally responsive education, or CRT, where,
that is the craziest. You don't want the truth to be known because you don't want somebody's feelings hurt, but yet we know the truth. We got to live with it every day. We got to acknowledge it in our households. And hey, I'm just
and here's the kicker: when you talk to folks who, and it was first founded in, I can't remember her name. It was first done in law schools, and this professor, African American woman, she did this practice with her law students just to get a critical lens to think critically about how all the institutions play within a person in a criminal justice system. Educators took that and said, okay, we just gonna lift that, and now we're gonna make it this, and you better do it. And that's, I think, where this huge pushback is coming from, because now we have more, like you said before, we have more access to the internet. We have more connection. So now people are getting the truth.
Yeah.
People are constantly, and a lot of, if we go back and look historically about how things were intentionally destroyed with colonization.
Yeah.
Then now we're putting those pieces together. Yeah. And so everybody, should, that's when I started looking more closely as, if we are sitting here and wanting to, it's not about feeling bad. Mm-mm. There should be no blame or shame. But I used to tell people that I worked with when it was like, well, I wasn't responsible for, slavery. No, you weren't. But you do today participate and you do have privileges that I don't have. And we got to stop saying that privilege is just, I can go get a loan at the bank. Privilege is choice.
Can I give you an example of that really quick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to say this, man. I got love for everybody. Don't get it. But I got to say this. The truth is the truth, right? During the George Floyd protests, CNN building, downtown Atlanta, we're at the barricades. Army National Guard, for no apparent reason. Everybody's chilling. Like, there's music. Like, we're just more partying. Like, we're just out there, just together.
Yeah.
Army National Guard starts to do their little show of force. I guess somebody made a call. All of a sudden, we start hearing cheers. And we notice it was the LGBTQ community. Right. And shout out to them, because I don't know what would have happened in hindsight if they didn't come. But as they came, they told everybody, they're like, we got this. Back up. And they came on through between us and the barricades. And now all of a sudden the Army National Guard, they backed up. They chilled. Mm-hmm. And there was times, because we were out there a couple of days, and I'm just speaking on experience, where, our Caucasian counterparts out there, when the police were getting, for no, look, they would put themselves between the police and whatever in that moment, but they understood what they had and they used it as an advantage to the people that they were compassionate about in the moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's what it's supposed to look like. That's what it's.
If I get a jump shot, and you know what I'm saying, then I should be playing. I should be the shooting guard on the team. It's okay. Right. You know what I'm saying? If you're 8 feet tall, you should be the center. We all got our. If we together, let's acknowledge what it is. What happened? Right. It's so let's things could be different if it was out in the open, truly out in the open. You know what I'm saying?
I have several colleagues who do a lot of work going to other states and helping with legislation, which they'll come back and say, legislation has no place in education. In the regard of legislation wants to, tiptoe around that, or they went to a state where they pretty much shut it down and blocked it and got a little fragility there. And she had never been to the South. It was in Alabama. So she had never been to the South before. Oh, yeah. And she just sat there amazed, like, I couldn't believe that everything we were telling them that what kids were asking for, they were just like, nope, not trying to hear that. And she said, I realized for the first time that there are certain people in this country who want to protect what it is they think they have. And it's like, like I knew that living in the South all my life. I see it here in certain ways. It's just different. One is more, overt. They're just gonna tell you, but you still could be cool. You can respect the boundaries, and then the other one's gonna do it through a smile. The feeling's still there. Same thing.
It's just about acknowledgement and respect, right?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's not, and I think that's where I think sometimes people get it. Like you said, we're not trying to like beat you up. We know what, like we know what's going on. Yeah. We just want y'all to stop acting like it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
So we could just come to the table. We want you to acknowledge the fact that white privilege is rewarded, whether it's through the judicial system. When you look at situations. Man, even in sports, Brett Favre, who stole $5 million from residents in Mississippi, they barely talked about that. But Ime Udoka, the coach of the Boston Celtics, it wasn't right. He had an affair as a married person to another married person, but they were two consenting adults. But this man loses his job. They beat him up. Kyrie Irving. We can go. It is what it is. We see it, and social media, like you said, exposes it. You can't hide no more like that. You know.
And also the message for us as a people is we don't need to take on the victim mentality anymore with it.
Yeah.
We could let that go because while it's there, it has never stopped us. No. And it will never stop us. The only way, and again to your point, through education, is to water it down and dumb it down. Yeah. And now we're looking at people who are in the limelight who can barely make a sentence incoherently. And then we want our kids to emulate. Why is it that Black people always have to have some type of celebrity or athlete to be the voice? Why not your story and how you are a leader now be seen on mainstream? We always got to shuck and jive. Now people got to make a living. I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
But what we see, I don't see other people being perceived in that regard.
No, not in that way. It's just what it is. Though the industry, they're gonna push an agenda. People, they want negativity, they want chaos, they want gangs, they want what they want, and that's what's gonna be pushed. The TikTok algorithm I learned about. I just love studying. The algorithm is opposite in China, where TikTok's from. In TikTok, you don't see negative stuff. You see stuff about math and science and history, and when you like that, the algorithm rewards you with more of those type. But in here, United States, it's negative, and I'm guilty of it too. When I'm bored on a Saturday night, my wife's watching a movie, I'm not really into it. I'm whatever. And I get it, but it's gotta be boundaries, man. And if you're in social media, understand you have a voice.
Yeah.
People are waiting to hear your story, and people are just like you. I got so many people that reach out in the DMs, whether it's kids that were thinking about committing suicide, younger people that were thinking about getting in the car that night with their homeboys. And that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. That's what it should be about. It should be about impact instead of just being praised. But
yeah, for showing something that everybody got.
Yeah. I don't, you got kids up there showing they committing crimes on TikTok and showing you how they do it. I don't know. It's a weird time.
So in talking, as we wrap this up, I would love for you, I'm just going to put that out there. I would love you to come back again and address some other topics where you have time and you're going to be done with graduation, because I know you got to get ready for that tomorrow. But so what's next for you in your next evolution of Chris Willars? Like,
man,
what new projects? What you working on?
I told everybody this last year I'm getting ready to turn 40 next year. I'm going on a 10-year run. There's some personal pride, some personal stuff. I would say, as far as when it comes to the people, early next year, launching Free Game Society. It's basically a bunch of entrepreneurs and creators and thinkers that are willing to give you the game for free. We're not charging you. You come, you build with us. We're going to have social chats. You're going to be able to get in touch with us. Out here in Atlanta, been networking. Shout out to good brother KT Love for Crew, RAE, certain people out here. We've just been linking. Getting ready to do events at the school, which is more than a school. It's like a hub. So we're getting ready to do like social media events and a bunch of networking events, because I want to encourage anybody that's listening to this, get inside of new rooms. And if you can't find a new room, create a new room and you'll find people there. So that's what this is about. And then, there's another business venture I'm getting ready to go into, but not going to shout that out yet, but I'm excited. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then when I'm 50, I'm going for politics. When I'm 50, that's the goal.
When you, what level? Like,
I mean, just like alderman or city council. I just want to say that I win. Whether I win, lose, whatever it is, that's all I got planned out for right now. Anything other than that.
I saw on Roland Martin, was it this morning? Somewhere in Arkansas elected their youngest mayor. He's 18 years old.
Yeah. They got guy, ex-felon, he's a mayor in Texas. He just won. Small town out there in Texas. Yeah. So anybody that's just because you're a convicted felon doesn't mean that you can't run for public office. You just can't run for certain offices. But So
what's one last message you want to let listeners know? Because I definitely want you back. I know you're on a time crunch now, but I definitely would like you back.
Just let me know. Just email, let me know. One message. I would just say, keep going. That's it. Like, it's tough. It's the holidays. It's stressful. Ask me how I know. It seems like there's no easy days, a lot of weeks, but the answer's always been the same. Keep going. You made it through 100% of your worst days already, and all you did was keep going. That's it, man. I'm just going to keep it simple right there. Just keep going.
What can we do as a community to support you?
I think it's time for our communities to look for different leaders. If not necessarily, people like me, just no, start listening to us more. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna give you what I'm because I've been doing. I always say it, and I don't even want to dress it up, man. Maybe not all of us, but the guys that have lost it, the women that have lost it all, and got a chance to get it back, and you see us value life. Those might be the ones you want to pay attention to. I know a lot of people that's coming out of situations like me that, man, they doing amazing. I got a buddy, he make what I do look like I don't even know. Like we out here. So and it's to that, the other part, I just say communities need leaders who have been through things. because that's how you connect to people. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. And last question, where can we find you? Plug your.
Man, all right. You can follow me on IG at the_100_TV, or you can find me on TikTok, the100TV. We just reached like 13.1K followers, so I'm definitely grateful for everybody over there. We're on YouTube, the100TV. This month, I got to shout out everybody again. We reached 100K views this month. And that's really it. I'm everywhere all over. Facebook, the100TV, we're everywhere. Each platform is something different. If you're looking for more personal conversation, chat, stuff like that with me, a couple of my guys, you can hit us up on Facebook. If you want to see the shorts, stuff that's going to make you think about mental health, incarceration, go to TikTok. And then like I said, we got our live streams. I'd love to have you up there on mine too, as well, if you ever want to, on YouTube. So, and then shout out my school, shout out to my wife, man, the lovely Mrs. April Willars. She's my rock, man. That's all I can say. It's really her school, Lasting Layers of Beauty. You can check it out, www.lastinglayersofbeauty.com, where we really care about people, and we're really trying to make sure people are bosses and not just beauticians or whatever. We really pride ourselves in making sure they can go out there and run a school, salon, whatever they want to do. So check us out. Shout out to my team, man. And that's it. I'll be talking for all that. I'll be talking forever.
It will all be in the description for this episode. I mean, you got a lot going on, but you worked hard and you deserve every blessing that you are going to get. I would love to have you and your wife even come back and just talk about supporting one another in your vision. So, again, I just want to thank you all for listening and hope you have learned something from Chris Life Willars. Thank you all. God bless.
All right. Peace.
This has been the Unlearning Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this little introduction to the show, and I look forward to unlearning with you together in future episodes. If you enjoy the show, which I know you will, please like, share, and subscribe. You can also send me a written or video comment on any of your favorite podcasting apps. This podcast will be available on all podcast platforms. To stay connected, follow me on Christina Jones, the Unlearning Podcast on Facebook, and Unlearn This 2022 on Instagram. Again, thank you for listening, and until next time, what is it that you need to unlearn in your life today to live a better, brighter tomorrow?